Students, today's topic is gross anatomy of large intestine. Large intestine. The large intestine extends from the cecum to the anus. It is divided into cecum. This is cecum. Appendix. This part is appendix. Then ascending colon. This is ascending colon. Then transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and rectum, and finally anal canal. So these are the divisions of large intestine. Cecum. Cecum is that part of the large intestine that lies below the level of the junction of ileum with the large intestine. So this is ileum, this is the whole large intestine. So this part which lies below this junction of ileum with the large intestine, this is cecum. It is a blind-ended pouch that is situated in the right iliac fossa, and it is completely covered with peritoneum, and it has a wide range of mobility. It is greater width than length. The width is greater than length, and this type of greater width than length can be seen in few other organs. What are these? These are prostate, pons, and pituitary. So this point is important. Now the relations of the cecum. Anteriorly there will be coils of small intestine, some part of the greater omentum, and the anterior abdominal wall of the right iliac region. Then posteriorly the muscles of the back, the right psoas major and the iliacus muscle. Then these are the muscles, psoas major, and nerves will be the femoral nerve and the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh. This is the femoral nerve and this is the lateral cutaneous nerve of the thigh. Then appendix is mostly commonly found behind the cecum. Then medially the appendix arises from the cecum on its medial side. So on the medial relations we will see appendix. Initially the appendix arises from the apex of the cecum, but due to the rapid growth of the lateral wall of the cecum, the attachment of the appendix that shifts medially. But if there is any development arrest in the shift of the appendix, then various types of cecum can be seen. The first is the normal or the adult type. It is present in 90% of the population. In this, the right cecal pouch that enlarges more than the left one, and the appendix is situated about 2 cm below the ileocecal junction. The second is the infantile type or the quadrate type. In this, the cecum is quadrate in shape and the appendix is attached to a depressed bottom. It is seen in 3% of the population. The third is the exaggerated type. It is found in 4 to 5%, and here the right cecal pouch that enlarges usually and the left one atrophies. लेफ्ट की एट्रोफी हो जाती है और राइट वाला बहुत ज़्यादा enlarge कर जाता है. This is known as the exaggerated type. The fourth is the fetal or the conical type. In this, the cecum is conical in shape and the appendix arises as a horizontal straight tube, and it is seen in only 2% of the population. So these are the four varieties of cecum which can be seen. Now what is ileocecal junction? See the terminal part of ileum that enters the large intestine at the junction of cecum with the ascending colon. So this is the point of entry of ileum, and this opening, it is guarded by a valve or two folds. These are the two folds. These are known as the ileocecal valve. They act as valve, and they have the ileocecal valve has two lips. The upper is the horizontal and the lower one is concave. Now the valve, it is closed by the sympathetic nerves and they cause the tonic contraction of the ileocecal sphincter. It acts as a sphincter, and it is also closed by the distension of the cecum. When the cecum is distended, then it is closed, so that what happens, it prevents the reflux from cecum to ileum, means the contents that have entered the cecum, they are not going to pass in the ileum in the backward direction. So this is the function of ileocecal wall. Then the appendix that enters the cavity of the cecum through an opening. This is another opening in cecum that is located below and behind the ileocecal wall. And this opening that is again guarded by a fold of mucous membrane that is known as valve of Gerlach. This is the valve of Gerlach at the opening of the appendix into the cecum. So these are the two openings in cecum. Now the blood supply, lymphatic drainage and the nerve supply of cecum. See, the arterial supply, it comes from anterior and posterior cecal arteries, which are the branches of ileocholic artery. We have studied in the last lecture that these are the branches of ileocholic artery, which is again a branch of superior mesenteric artery. This is ileocholic coming from superior mesenteric. It divides into anterior cecal and posterior cecal, which supply the anterior and the posterior surfaces of cecum. Then the veins, they correspond to the arteries, and finally they drain into superior mesenteric vein. Now the lymphatic drainage that passes through several mesenteric nodes and finally reaches the superior mesenteric lymph nodes. And the nerve supply that comes from sympathetic and parasympathetic from the vagus nerves, and they form the superior mesenteric plexus. Now we come to appendix. See, appendix, it is a narrow muscular tube which contains a large amount of lymphoid tissue, and the base is attached to the posteromedial wall of the cecum. तो इसका खाली बेस अटैच्ड होता है एंड द रिमाइंडर पार्ट इज फ्री. जो बाकी का पार्ट है जितना भी, दैट इज फ्री. It has a complete peritoneal covering. Completely it is covered by peritoneum, which is attached to the mesentery of the small intestine by the mesoappendix. जो इसकी covering है, that is known as mesoappendix, and it is attached to the mesentery of the small intestine. So mesoappendix that contains the appendicular vessels and nerves. Now the tip of the appendix, जो tip है, that is found in various positions in different individuals, and according to it various positions of appendix are known, and we can compare these position with the hour hand of a clock. So first is that if it is pointing, the tip is pointing into the pelvis against the right lateral wall, then this position is known as the pelvic position or the 4 o'clock position. This. Then it may be found behind the cecum. This is the known as the retrocecal position when it is found behind the cecum, and this is the most common position found, retrocecal position. See, it is shown with the dotted lines since it is posteriorly. Then it can be present at the lateral side of cecum. This is the paracecal position. Then it can be present in the, it can be found in front of or behind the ileum. If it is found in front, then it is known as pre-ileal, and if it is found posteriorly to the ileum, then it is known as post-ileal. And this position is known as 2 o'clock position or the splenic position because it is pointing towards spleen. Now see, this another position is the promontoric position when it passes horizontally to the left towards this, when it, in this position it is pointing towards the sacral promontory, that is why it is known as the promontoric position or the 3 o'clock position. And sometimes it may be found below the cecum, just hanging like this below the cecum, then this position is known as the subcecal position, or it is also known as mid-inguinal or 6 o'clock position. See, this is 6 o'clock position of the hour hand, so it is known as 6 o'clock or mid-inguinal or subcecal position. So the most common is the retrocecal position, and the second most common position found of the appendix is the pelvic position. So these are the various positions of pelvis of appendix found in human body. If we see the surface anatomy of appendix, then it lies in the right iliac fossa and its base is situated 1/3 of the way up to the line joining the right anterior superior iliac spine to the umbilicus. If we join this line, then its base is located at the junction of lateral 1/3 and medial 2/3 at this point, और इस point को बोलते हैं McBurney's point. And this is clinically very important because in case of appendicitis, at McBurney's point there is localized tenderness. Now the blood supply of appendix, the arterial supply that comes from appendicular artery, it is a branch of posterior cecal artery. And anterior and posterior cecal arteries, ये दोनों branches होती हैं इलियोकोलिक artery की. So this is the appendicular artery which supplies the appendix. Now the appendicular vein that drains into the posterior cecal vein. The lymph vessels that drain into one or two nodes lying in the mesoappendix. This is the mesoappendix, and then they finally go into the superior mesenteric lymph nodes. And the nerve supply, it is supplied by sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves which are derived from the vagus, and they form the superior mesenteric plexus. Now the colon extends superiorly from the cecum. This is cecum, and the colon, it extends upwards superiorly from the cecum. And colon consists of four parts: ascending colon, transverse colon, then descending colon, and finally sigmoid colon. See, ascending and descending segments, these are retroperitoneal, means anteriorly only they are covered by peritoneum, while the transverse and the sigmoid colon, they are intraperitoneal, means they are covered mostly by the peritoneum, all over by the peritoneum these are covered. Now the large intestine, that has some important anatomical features, and one of these is tinea coli. Now the large intestine, that in it the muscular cord that consists of outer longitudinal muscle and inner circular muscle. Now this outer longitudinal muscle, that is arranged in the form of thick bands which are also known as ribbons, and these are known as the tinea coli. These begin at the base of appendix. Appendix से शुरू होते हैं और उसके ऊपर जाकर they divide into 3 bands. 3 bands में divide हो जाती हैं, इनको हम टीनिया कोलाई बोलते हैं. और ascending colon, descending colon और sigmoid colon में इनकी position रहती है, one anterior रहता है and one posteromedial and one is posterolateral. So these are the position. लेकिन in transverse colon ये position change हो जाती है, one is anterior, then one posterior and one is superior. Now how this becomes, we will see. Now see in this figure, this is the tinea coli, the longitudinal muscle coat of the colon. Now इस तरह से tinea coli ये ascending, descending and sigmoid colon में arranged है, बस इसकी position transverse colon में change हो रही है. ये tinea coli 3 bands की form में है. One is anterior, one is ऐसा ही इधर posteromedial surface पे रहेगा and one on the posterolateral surface. The one you are seeing this and on the anterior surface, this is known as tinea libera. ये tinea libera है. जो posteromedial surface पर है होता है, that is known as tinea mesocolica, and the one that is present on the posterolateral surface, that is known as tinea omenthalis. यहाँ posteromedially होगा ऐसा ही band, tinea omenthalis. Now see, like this ascending colon is going and finally it is the colon that is changing its direction. यहाँ पर पूरा का पूरा direction change हो गया है. So we can see here that this anterior surface that will become the inferior surface, वो inferior surface हो जाएगा, and the one that is posteromedial here, तो posteromedial surface that will become the posterior surface, वो posteriorly पहुंच जाएगा, और जो posterolateral surface था, that posterolateral part that is becoming the superior surface, that is coming on the superior surface. So tinea libra that will become what? Tinea libra that will form in the transverse colon, that will lie where? Inferiorly. Then tinea mesocolica जो कि posteromedial surface पर था, that will lie posteriorly. And tinea omentellus जो कि posterolateral surface पर था, that will become to lie on the superior surface. This is the superior surface. So only in the transverse colon ये तीनों टीनिया की पोजीशंस चेंज हो रही है. रेस्ट ऑफ द कोलोन, असेंडिंग, डिसेंडिंग एंड सिग्मॉइड कोलोन, ये all the three tinea, their positions remain the same. So this is very important. Tinea libra, then tinea mesocolica, and posterolateral tinea omentellus. So these positions you have to learn. Another important characteristic feature of large intestine is appendix epiploica. What are these? These are fat-filled pockets of peritoneum which project from the visceral peritoneum on the surface of the large intestine. See, these we can see appendices epiploicae. They can be seen on the surface of the large intestine, and these are fat-filled. इनमें fat है, fat-filled pockets होती हैं peritoneum की, जो कि visceral peritoneum से प्रोजेक्ट करती हैं और सरफेस पर वी कैन सी देम. नाउ दे आर प्रेजेंट एवरीवेयर एक्सेप्ट ऑन द रेक्टम, और इनको हम बोलते हैं ओमेंटल अपेंडेजेस भी बोला जाता है. सो दीज आर द अपेंडिसेस एपिप्लोइका. थर्ड इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर ऑफ लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन इज हॉस्ट्रा और हॉस्ट्रेशंस. नाउ मल्टीपल पाउचेस can be seen in the wall of the large intestine. These are known as haustra or haustrations, and also known as sacculations. See why these haustra form? ये these are haustra. ये जो out pouches देख रहे हैं हम large intestine में on the surface, these are haustra, and they form because ये जो outer longitudinal muscle coat होता है, that is smaller than the inner circular one. So outer one is smaller than the inner one. So what will happen? The inner muscle coat that has to adjust within the small outer longitudinal muscle coat. So how can it adjust? By forming outpouchings like this. अंदर की लेंथ ज़्यादा है बाहर की मसल से, so वो इस तरह से outpouchings form करके it is adjusting in this outer longitudinal muscle coat. So that is why these haustra or haustrations they are formed. The ascending colon, it lies in the right lower quadrant of abdomen, and it extends from the cecum upward to the inferior surface of the right lobe of liver. Cecum से upward extend करता है up to the right lobe of liver के inferior surface तक. And at this position it turns to the left to form the right colic flexure. This is the right colic flexure, and it becomes continuous with the transverse colon. इससे continuous हो रहा है. Then peritoneum, it covers the front and the sides of the ascending colon, and this peritoneum it binds it to the posterior abdominal wall. What are the relations of ascending colon? In the anterior relations, coils of intestine आएंगे, greater omentum का भी part आएगा कुछ, then anterior abdominal wall most anteriorly. Then in the posterior relation, muscles of the back, iliacus muscle, iliac crest also, then quadratus lumborum muscle, and transversus abdominis muscle also, its origin. Then lower aspect of the right kidney will also come in the posterior relation. Then two nerves, iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves. Right paracolic gutter, what is this? It is a sulcus which is present laterally to the colon. This is the sulcus which is present laterally to the colon, and fluid and pus, they traverse along this gutter either from appendicular region to the hepatorenal pouch or from liver and epigastrium to the pelvis, means in both the directions. Appendix से यहाँ ऊपर जा सकता है up to the hepatorenal pouch that is between the liver, the posterior surface of the liver and the right kidney. hepatorenal pouch से वहां तक जा सकता है, या फिर लिवर और एपिगैस्ट्रियम से ये इस डायरेक्शन में होता हुआ पेल्विस तक आ सकता है. In both the directions it can go. So that is why this is important, because infection that can travel in both the directions. Right colic flexure, it is the junction of the ascending colon and the transverse colon. This is the junction, it is known as right colic flexure. It lies anterior to the lower part of the right kidney. Lower part जो होगा right kidney का, right kidney lies just posterior to the liver. So the lower part of right kidney that will lie posteriorly to this right colic flexure. Then and inferior to the right lobe of the liver. Right lobe जो है liver का वो इसके anterior relations में आएगा, and that is why it is also known as hepatic flexure. इसीलिए इसको hepatic flexure भी बोलते हैं. Transverse colon, it passes from the right hypochondriac region into the left hypochondriac region में पास करता है. Then it extends from the right colic flexure to the left colic flexure below the spleen. This is the spleen. यहाँ ये left colic flexure है. It is also known as splenic flexure. इसको हम बोलते हैं hepatic flexure और इसको splenic flexure भी बोलते हैं. So the left ये जो colic flexure that is more higher and more posterior than the right colic flexure. Then the transverse colon has its own mesentery and it is known as the transverse mesocolon. And this transverse mesocolon, it suspends the transverse colon from the anterior border of pancreas. Anterior border of pancreas पर ये transverse mesocolon that is attached. Relations of transverse colon in the anterior relations में यहाँ पर greater omentum that will come when the umbilical and the hypogastric regions of the anterior abdominal wall more anteriorly. In the posterior relations, the descending part of the duodenum that will come, then the head of the pancreas here, and coils of jejunum and ileum, they will also come posteriorly. In the superior relations, what will come? Liver, then gallbladder, and the greater curvature of stomach and the lower end of spleen. Here there will be the lower end of spleen. In the inferior relations, small intestine will come. The descending colon, it lies at the left side of the abdomen in both the upper and the lower quadrants. Left side में रहता है ये, upper and lower quadrants. It begins at the left colic flexure of the transverse colon and it ends by becoming continuous with the sigmoid colon. This is the sigmoid colon. It is becoming continuous with it at the pelvic brim. See, this is the pelvic brim. This is pelvis and this is the pelvic brim. Then it is covered from the front and sides by the peritoneum, and this peritoneum, it binds it to the posterior abdominal wall. So it is intraperitoneal. We have studied it. And the relations of descending colon in the anterior relations, coils of intestine will come, then greater omentum and the anterior abdominal wall. So all these will cover the descending colon also. In the posterior relation, lateral border of the left kidney. Here there will be left kidney. So posterior relation is formed by the lateral border of left kidney. Then the back muscles, transversus abdominis, that's origin. Then quadratus lumborum muscle, iliac crest, then iliacus muscle, the left psoas major muscle, then iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerves, and the lateral cutaneous nerve of thigh and femoral nerve also will come in its posterior relation. Sigmoid colon, it begins where the descending colon that passes in front of the pelvic brim. So here there is a beginning of sigmoid colon, and below it is continuous with the rectum. This is rectum, and at the vertebral level S3 it is becoming continuous with rectum. And sigmoid colon is completely surrounded with peritoneum. That is why it is mobile up to a certain extent. It hangs down into the pelvic cavity in the form of a loop, and it is attached to the posterior wall of the pelvis by a fan-shaped fold of peritoneum, which is known as sigmoid mesocolon. So sigmoid colon, that is also covered by a fold of peritoneum, that is sigmoid mesocolon, and in the similar way transverse colon is also covered by a fold of peritoneum, that is transverse mesocolon. So that is why both these sigmoid colon and transverse colon, they are mobile up to a certain extent. The relations of sigmoid colon in the anterior relations, urinary bladder in case of males. See, here is the sigmoid colon, and urinary bladder will come in case of males, while the posterior surface of uterus, this is uterus, the posterior surface of uterus and the upper part of vagina in case of females. So these are the anterior relations, and in the posterior relations there will be lower coils of terminal part of ileum, they will come, then some part of rectum, because of the curves of rectum, it is quite curved in position, so that is why some part of rectum that is coming in the posterior relation. Then sacrum bone, external iliac vessels, left piriformis muscles, and the left sacral plexus of nerves. These will form the posterior relation. Now the arterial supply of colon. As we have studied earlier that the midgut derived structures, they are supplied by the superior mesenteric artery and its branches, and the hindgut derived structures, they are supplied by the branches of the inferior mesenteric artery. So that is why, since we know that up to the right 2/3 part of the transverse colon, it comes in midgut, so that part will be supplied by the branches of superior mesenteric. So, and the left 1/3 and the remaining part of the colon, that will be supplied by the branches of inferior mesenteric artery, because that is coming in the hindgut portion of the gut. So the colon, that will be supplied by the ileocolic artery, right colic, middle colic, these are the branches of superior mesenteric, and the hindgut part, that will be supplied by left colic artery, sigmoidal arteries, and the superior rectal artery. These are the branches of inferior mesenteric artery. So this is the arterial distribution of colon. If we see the arterial supply of each part separately, then ascending colon, it is supplied by the lower small part of the ascending colon is supplied by the ileocolic artery, and its bigger upper part is supplied by the right colic artery. These are the branches of superior mesenteric artery. Then transverse colon, the right 2/3 part of the transverse colon is supplied by the middle colic artery, that is from superior mesenteric, and the left 1/3 by the left colic artery, that is from inferior mesenteric artery. Then descending colon, that is supplied by left colic artery, again from inferior mesenteric, and sigmoid colon by the sigmoidal branches of the inferior mesenteric artery and superior rectal artery, which are the branches of inferior mesenteric artery. The venous drainage. The veins which empty the colon follow the arteries, and the veins which accompany the ileocolic, right colic, and middle colic arteries join the superior mesenteric vein, while the veins which accompany the branches of inferior mesenteric artery, they join the inferior mesenteric vein. And finally the superior and inferior mesenteric veins, they drain into the portal vein, because ultimately the blood from the gastrointestinal tract, that has to reach the portal vein. So that is why finally the blood is reaching the portal vein. See, this is the superior mesenteric vein and inferior mesenteric vein. Inferior mesenteric vein will open here into the splenic vein, and finally splenic and superior mesenteric, they join to form the portal vein, which will enter the liver. So this is the venous drainage. Lymphatic drainage of colon, that occurs through epicolic lymph nodes lying on the wall of the gut. These are the epicolic lymph nodes, and paracolic lymph nodes on the medial side of the gut. These are the paracolic. Intermediate on main branches. These are the intermediate or mesocolic nodes on the main branches. Then the terminal nodes, they lie on inferior mesenteric and superior mesenteric vessels. So this is the lymphatic drainage of colon. So large number of differences, they occur between the small and large intestine. What are the external differences? The small intestine, except duodenum, is mobile, whereas the ascending and descending parts of the colon, they are fixed. Means the small intestine is mostly mobile, while the large intestine is fixed. And the caliber or the diameter of the full small intestine is smaller as compared to that of the full large intestine. And small intestine, again with the exception of duodenum, has a mesentery that passes downward across the midline into the right iliac fossa. So these are the differences. The longitudinal muscle of the small intestine forms a continuous layer around the gut. Small intestine में continuous layer होती है longitudinal muscle की, while in the large intestine, except appendix, the longitudinal muscle is collected in 3 bands, which are known as tinea coli. So these are the, like this, there are the bands of longitudinal muscle, tinea coli. The small intestine has no fatty outpouchings attached to its wall, while the large intestine has these fatty appendages or tags, which are known as appendices epiploici. See, these are the appendices epiploici. We can see here also, and in this picture also we can see appendices epiploici. These are fat-filled pouches of peritoneum. The wall of the small intestine is smooth, whereas that of the large intestine is sacculated, or haustras are present like this, because the length of the longitudinal muscle coat is smaller than the inner circular muscle coat. That's why. So these are the major differences between small intestine and large intestine. If we see the internal differences, then the mucous membrane of the small intestine has permanent folds, which are known as plicae circularis. This we have studied, which are absent in the large intestine. There are no plicae circularis in large intestine. And the mucous membrane of the small intestine has villi, which are absent in the large intestine. Villi are mainly for the absorption, and in the large intestine these villi are absent. Aggregation of lymphoid tissue, which is known as Peyer's patches, these are found in the mucous membrane of the small intestine, particularly ileum, and these are absent in the large intestine. Now the applied anatomy of colon. One of the conditions seen in large intestine is congenital megacolon or Hirschsprung disease. What happens in this? The neural crest cells, they don't migrate to form the Meindrick plexus, which is the parasympathetic ganglia in the sigmoid colon and rectum during the embryonic development. So what will happen? The parasympathetic stimulation will not be there, so the movement will not occur in the intestine. The peristaltic movement will be absent. Peristalsis is the forward movement of food in the intestine, so that will be absent. So the normal proximal colon, that becomes grossly dilated because of the retention of feces, and this causes abdominal distension. Since the feces, they are not moving in the forward direction, so that is why abdominal distension will be present. So the constricted section, that normally corresponds to the rectosigmoid junction. that part will be constricted, while the proximal part of the colon, that will be dilated because of feces. Another condition is the cancer or carcinoma of the colon. The cancer of colon, it is a top cause of death in the Western world, and comparatively it is common in those who are above 50 years of age and non-vegetarians. It is a slow growing tumor and it causes constriction of the colon. And in advanced cases, it spreads to the liver through the portal vein circulation, because finally we have seen that all the blood that is going to the portal vein. And if diagnosed early, a hemicolectomy or the partial resection of the colon is carried out to heal the patient. If it is diagnosed earlier, then partial we resect the colon so that the patient heals. So this is the carcinoma of colon. Another condition is diverticulosis. In this, the herniation of the lining mucosa through the circular muscle between the tinea coli occurs. See, this is the herniation of the mucosa of the large intestine, and this occurs through the circular muscle. Circular muscle में से ये outpouchings हो रही हैं. These diverticula are formed, and this herniation occurs where the circular muscle is the weakest, and it is weakest where it is pierced by the blood vessels. जहाँ से blood vessels enter कर रहे हैं वहाँ पर ये weakest है. That is why these diverticula they occur. And inflammation in these diverticula that can also occur. In that case, it is known as diverticulitis. And the treatment of this condition is surgical. These diverticula, they are removed through surgery, and then the large intestine that becomes normal. Now, volvulus, it is a clinical condition where a portion of gut, it rotates clockwise or anti-clockwise on the axis of its mesentery. Means the rotation, a part of the intestine that rotates, it can be either clockwise or anti-clockwise, and the axis is its mesentery, its own mesentery. Then this condition might correct itself spontaneously, or the rotation may continue until the blood supply of the gut is cut off, leading to ischemia. Means it may correct itself, or if it is not corrected, then the blood supply that will be cut off, and that will lead to the ischemia, means the lack of blood supply to that part. The sigmoid colon, it is quite susceptible to volvulus because of its extreme freedom of its mesentery. In this picture we can see the volvulus, this part of the small intestine that is rotated upon its own mesentery. So this rotation that causes the ischemia of the part to which it is adherent. So this can correct spontaneously, or it can lead to ischemia. Now, intussusception. This is a condition where a proximal part of the bowel that invaginates into the lumen of an adjacent distal section, means proximal part जो है bowel का वो invaginate कर जाता है lumen of the distal section. So this might cut off the blood supply to the bowel, and it can cause gangrene. What is gangrene? It is the death of a particular part of the or tissue because of the lack of blood supply. Now the different forms of intussusception are ilioileal, ileocecal and colocolic. Means the ileum that is invaginating into its own lumen, some part of ileum that is invaginating into ileum only. Now the ileum that is invaginating inside cecum, and colocolic means some part of colon is invaginating inside its own lumen. Some proximal part is invaginating into the distal part of colon. The ileocecal intussusception is the most commonest form of intussusception. Here we can see that this is ileum and it is opening into the cecum, and finally it has invaginated inside. Intussusception is occurring The ileum is inside the large intestine or cecum. So this is the most common form of intussusception. Appendicitis, that is a very common clinical condition. It is acute inflammation of the appendix and is the most common cause for acute severe abdominal pain. When the abdominal pain that occurs acutely and it is very severe, then appendicitis should be suspected. The abdomen is most tender at McBurney's point. This I had told you earlier. McBurney's point is where it is 1/3 of the distance from the right anterior superior iliac spine to the umbilicus at the junction of the lateral 1/3 and medial 2/3. So here lies the base of the appendix, and this point if we will press, then there will be tenderness at this point. So this is the clinical sign of appendicitis. Initially what happens? It causes a vague pain in the periumbilical region. Why in this region? Because appendix that is supplied by the T10 segment of the spinal cord, and that is why the pain is referred to the umbilical region. As the appendix swells, it irritates the parietal peritoneum because it is covered by peritoneum and causes severe pain in the right lower quadrant. So if the appendicitis has occurred, then appendix has to be removed, and if it is not removed, it will become necrotic and it can rupture also, resulting in peritonitis, that is inflammation of the peritoneum. So removal of the appendix is known as appendicectomy. The surgical procedure is known as appendicectomy. So this completes the topic. Thank you.